episode of biology program for the third secondary grade. أهلا بيكم أبنائنا وبناتنا طلاب وطلبات الثانوية العامة في حلقة جديدة لمادة البيولوجي. في بداية الحلقة اسمحوا لي أرحب بأستاذ زميلنا مستر يحيى سالم, the expert of biology in the Egyptian Ministry of Education. أهلا بيك يا أستاذ يحيى.
You are welcome Mr. Chief.
Welcome مستر يحيى. الحقيقة احنا النهاردة هنبدأ نتكلم عن chapter 2 hormonal coordination. هنبدأ مع مستر يحيى يتكلم لنا عن learning outcomes of the hormonal coordination.
Actually today we're gonna talk about a roadmap, which is number one, the hormones, that what's meant by the word hormones. Number two, the auxins, which are the hormone plant hormones. Number two, the thyroid gland. Number three, the pituitary gland, and the effect of these glands and these the hormones which are secreted from these glands on our body. And also we are going to talk about the discovery of hormones and the effort of some famous scientists.
Okay, now we are going to start the episode with the discovery of the hormones or the hormonal coordination. What about the efforts of Claude Bernard to discover the secretion of the glands?
Claude Bernard is considered as one of the most important scientists because he discovered that, he concluded that the liver is responsible for secretion of some secretions like the glucose, like carbohydrates, and like glucose, and also like bile. He considered that the bile is external secretion, while the carbohydrates or storing of sugar into glycogen is external secretion, Mr.
Of course, the glycogen and the bile are not act as hormones, but the Claude Bernard talk about the kinds of secretions as two types: internal secretion as a glycogen that's stored inside the hepatic cells, and external secretion as a bile juice, which is secreted from the liver and stored in the gallbladder and passed to the through the bile duct to the duodenum during the digestion of the food. So the second scientists to discover the action of the hormones is Starling. What about the efforts of Starling to discover the hormones?
Really, Mr. Starling is considered the famous scientist who discovered hormones, because he deduced that whenever the nerve supply is cut to this pancreas, it does not stop its secretion of hormones. يعني هو لما انقطع النيرف سبلاي اللي واصل للبنكرياس, it's still secreting its secretion to the duodenum. So he concluded that there is no stimulation, nerve stimulation, and he deduced that the duodenum is responsible for secretion of some chemical substances which are responsible for activation of pancreas to secrete its secretions. So he named this or these substances hormones. Hormones, a Greek chemical, means in English activators, Mr.
Of course. So that means the secretion of the secretion of the enzymes that are secreted from the liver is not act at the nerve effect, but that act at the hormonal effect. Because when the food gets inside the duodenum, the pancreas secretes its pancreatic juice. But when the nerve connection takes place, when the Starling cut the nerve connection with the pancreas still secretes the pancreatic juice. That means there is no nerve effect to secrete the pancreatic juice. But he explains that the duodenum containing certain endocrine glands that secrete hormones in the blood directly, and the hormones pass through the blood to reach the pancreas, and that stimulate the pancreas to secrete the pancreatic juice. So what about the plant auxin or the plant hormones, Mr. Yahya?
Actually, plant hormones, which are called the auxins, are discovered by a famous scientist who is called Bison Johnson. As we studied in the secondary, he was considered as one of the most important botany scientists, because he discovered the auxins, which are responsible for everything is happening inside the plant. You know that, Mr., that plant does not have glands, okay? So how come? what is the part which is responsible for the secretion of the hormones or the auxins in the plant? It's two parts, or they are two parts. The first part, which is coleoptils, which is the growing tip of the plant, coleoptil, you know, coleoptil, the growing tip of the plant, which is responsible for secretion of the auxins which come to the growing parts of the stem or whatever, and it makes curvature toward the light or water or gravity. So he was talking about the phenomena which is called phototropism, and also it is secreted from the buds of the plant.
Of course, so the auxin or the primitive hormone, the plant auxin act as a primitive hormone because it's secreted from a certain part of the plant, which is the growing tip of the plant, but can causing a certain effect on the other part of the plant. Therefore, the auxin act as a primitive hormone that's secreted from the growing tip, but affect as a side that away from the light or that facing the light. We understand that when the auxin increase at the side of the stem that away from the light, that accelerates the growth and the elongation of the cell, so that leads to the curvature of the stem towards the light that act as a positive phototropism. So the Poisson-Jensen explained the action of the auxin in the plant. But Mr. Yahya, what about the importance of auxins to the plant?
Actually, Mr., concerning to the hormones, they are considered as the most important chemicals for plants because they are responsible for the plant growth, number one, and development of the plant tissues, and also blossoming or formation of flowers, and ripening of the fruits. So they affect everything which is happening inside the plant, so they are very important for plants.
Of course, that's the importance of the auxin to the plant. So the second question, how the scientists know the function of the hormones?
Actually, Mr., whenever you're talking about the hormones, it is not seen because they are found inside our body. So how could we understand the function of the hormones? How did the scientists know the function of the hormones? Really, it is after the study of two things. The first thing, which is the endocrine glands or endocrine gland, both are right. The endocrine glands, whenever they are enlarged, they are exposed to enlargement or cuts. What are the symptoms which are happening over here? Number two, the chemical structure of the product that are secreted from the endocrine gland. Whenever we study this structure, we could know the function of the hormones.
Of course, so the functions of the hormones are known by the symptoms of the disease that produce the result of the elongation of glands, and also by studying the structure of the hormone. So, Mr. Yahya, what about the characteristics of hormones?
Yes, actually, Mr. Hormones are very important for our bodies because whenever they secreted more or lower than the percentage which is needed for our body, it causes some diseases. So whenever you're talking about the characteristics or the properties of the hormone, number one, you could say that they are chemical substances. All right? They are chemical substances that are formed of proteins, may be complex, may be formed of proteins, or may be formed of amino acid or amino acid, okay? Amino acid, whenever they are assembled. And also may be composed of steroids, is like that progesterone and testosterone, which are the sex hormones. And also the second character of the hormones, that number two is the amount of secretion, Mr. Because 1/1000 of milligram increase or decrease of the amount of hormone secretion affects everything inside our bodies.
Of course, that's the characteristics of the hormones, but what about the functions of the hormones to the human beings? What about the functions of the hormones?
Really, Mr. Functions of hormones, you know that hormones are very important because they are responsible for, number one, what is called the homeostasis. Homeostasis, it maintains what is going to be happening inside our bodies. The internal environment in our bodies is like the body temperature, you know, it maintains the body temperature and also the body pressure. So it maintains everything inside our body, so it is responsible for maintaining our body environment, so it is called homeostasis. Number two, the behavior. مستر احنا بنحب وبنكره بالهرمونز. احنا بنكتئب بالهرمونز. احنا بنعمل اي حاجة بالهرمون مستر. So they are responsible for the behavior of human, and also they are responsible for metabolism. You know what is metabolism? Metabolism means utilization of food, which is two things: anabolism and catabolism. Both of them are called metabolism. Metabolism means that utilization of food, and also the sexual maturity. When the boy or girl come to a special age, some changes take place inside their body. So this is called the maturity, sex maturity, Mr.
Of course, so the functions of the hormone that keep the internal environmental balance of the body, which is called the homeostasis, and also the regulation of the body growth, the regulation of the internal environment, the regulation of the human behavior, the metabolic activities, many vital activities that control the inside the body by the action of the hormones. But if the amount of the hormones or the concentration of the hormone increase or decrease, that leads to a certain diseases or appearance of certain symptoms that produced as a result of the hypersecretion or hyposecretion of the hormones. So the glands that secrete the hormones are called endocrine glands. What about the types of glands, Mr. Yahya, inside the human body?
Really, Mr., our bodies contain three types of glands which are not found in plants, okay? The plant does not have glands. But whenever you're talking about the glands found inside our bodies, you're talking about three different glands, which are exocrine gland or exocrine gland, endocrine gland, and mixed gland. Exocrine gland, Mr., means that there is a duct. This is a duct, and this is a secretory part, and this is the bloodstream or the blood vessels, okay? This is number one, the secretory part. Number two, the duct. Number three, the bloodstream. This is called the exocrine gland.
Which number two, the excretion inside a certain cavity or inside the body.
Yes, it's like, you know, it's like when you're talking about the endocrine gland.
Yes.
You're talking about the salivary gland.
Sweat gland.
Yes, the sweat gland, which is taken in second preparatory, which is responsible for secretion of sweat.
Yes.
So may secrete the secretion outside the body is like the sweat gland, or inside the body is like the digestive glands or the salivary gland.
Yes, that secretes the digestive enzymes inside.
Yes, but number two, the endocrine gland, endocrine gland, it doesn't have a duct. It's like this is the gland and this is the bloodstream. There is no duct. There is no duct in between, so it is called ductless. So it is called ductless, okay? It doesn't have a duct. So it is called duct. Is it clear, mister?
Fadil.
Okay. It's called ductless gland, okay? But whenever you're talking about the exocrine, it has a duct, so it is called a duct gland. But the mixed gland, it has two tissues. The first tissue acts as exocrine gland, and the second tissue acts as endocrine gland, mister. It's like pancreas.
Of course. So the three types of the glands inside the human body: endocrine, exocrine, and mixed glands. What about the properties of the endocrine glands, Mr. Yahya? What about the properties of the endocrine glands?
Oh, okay, mister. The properties of endocrine glands or endocrine glands, number one, they are glands that are scattered inside our bodies. They have a duct. They do not have, they do not have a duct. They do not have a duct, so they are called ductless. They secrete their secretion directly to the blood, okay? So they are called the endocrine glands, okay? They are responsible for secretion of hormones, mister.
Of course, and each gland secretes one or more than
Yes.
one hormone or a group of hormones, and also most hormones are extracted in a purified state. So that's the properties of the endocrine glands. What about the glands we are going to study in chapter 2, or in the hormonal coordinations? The gland and the location. As shown in your screen, the first gland is the pituitary gland. Its location below the brain. The thyroid gland in the neck region. The parathyroid gland besides the trachea. The adrenal gland above the kidneys. Islets of Langerhans group of cells in the pancreas. The gonads in male and female reproductive system. That's the glands that are responsible for the secretion of the hormones, which are all of them are called the endocrine gland system. The first gland is the pituitary gland. The pituitary gland, as a structure, divided into two main parts. The first is the adenohypophysis, second is the neurohypophysis. Mr. Yahya, what about the hormones which are secreted from the first part, which is called the adenohypophysis, which consists of the anterior lobe and the middle lobe?
Really concerning to the first lobe of the endocrine gland, which is called the pituitary gland, it is called adenohypophysis أو بالعربي بنسميه الجزء الغدي.
Yes.
خلاص. It is responsible for secretion of some hormones. The first is about 6 hormones, mister. The first one, which is growth hormone, and the last, or the rest of them, are called the trophins. Okay? The first one, which is called the growth hormone, is
the most important, is the most famous one, is the growth hormone.
Yes, and also it is considered this master, this pituitary gland is considered the master gland.
Of course, yes.
Because it affects everything inside your body. So whenever you're talking about the growth hormone, you're talking about one of the most important hormones inside your body, because it affects the growth of bones and the metabolism of proteins. So it affects our body. So may causes some diseases, or may causes some disturbances. Number 2, TSH, which is called thyroid stimulating hormone, which is responsible for stimulation of the thyroid gland. Number 3, ACTH, which is adrenal corticotrophic hormone, which is responsible for the stimulation of the cortex of the adrenal glands. And the other one, which is called the 6 hormones or 6 trophins, is like FSH and LH. FSH and LH. And the last one, which is called prolactin, which is responsible for formation of what? Of milk. From what? From the 2 breasts during or after delivery, mister.
Of course, that's the hormones which are secreted from the pituitary gland, but the pituitary gland affected by the action of the certain important part in the forebrain, which is called the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus secretes certain chemical substances that stimulate the pituitary gland to secrete the hormones, as the hormones of the adenohypophysis and also the neurohypophysis. The video that appear in your screens that explain the action of the hypothalamus, which stimulate a certain parts of the thyroid gland, of the pituitary gland, to secrete the hormones from the adenohypophysis and also from the neurohypophysis. The adenohypophysis hormones are the first, the growth hormone. The growth hormone controls the metabolism of the protein, especially food, and the physical growth. The pituitary trophins are the group of hormones as the thyroid stimulating hormone or thyrotrophin, the adenocorticotrophic hormone, which stimulates the adrenal gland cortex to secrete the hormones, and also the gonadotrophic hormones as a follicle stimulating hormone or FSH hormone. In female, it stimulates the formation of Gravian follicle. In male, it stimulates the formation of seminiferous tubules, spermatozoa, and also the growth of the prostate gland. That's the action or the function of the FSH hormone or the follicle stimulating hormone. But the other hormones of the certain part of the pituitary gland, which is called the neurohypophysis. The neurohypophysis is responsible for the secretion of many hormones as two hormones. What about the hormones that's secreted from the neurohypophysis, Mr. Yahya?
Really, Mr. Concerning to the posterior lobe, which is composed of number one, the infundibulum, and number two, the posterior lobe. They are called the neurohypophysis. Okay, it is responsible. This part is responsible for secretion of what? Of two main hormones. Two main hormones, which are called ADH, antidiuretic hormone. Antidiuretic hormone, which is responsible for the reabsorption of the urine again from the kidney tubule after being reached to the renal tubules, which are called the nephrons, Mister. You know that nephrons are the units from which the kidney is formed. So this hormone is responsible for reabsorption of water again from the kidney tubule. Number two, the oxytocin hormone. Oxytocin hormone is considered as one of the most important hormone for delivery, Mister, because gynecologists which are أطباء النساء والتوليد يعني use this hormone for making contraction and relaxation for the uterine walls، أو اللي احنا بنسميه بالعربي اللي هو الطلق يا مستر، اللي بيحطوا احنا كدكاترة بيحطوه في الحقنة ويديه للأم علشان يخرج منها. طيب, so this one is responsible for the delivery of the baby or the fetus from its mother. So excuse me Mr. اسمح لي استعير من حضرتك كده يعني حاجة سمعتها لحضرتك قبل كده مرة. اسمح لي حضرتك، أنا اتعلمت وعرفت إنه حضرتك مرة قلت كده، كنت حاضر معاك مرة، إنه الهرمون ده زي ما ربنا خلقه كده، الهرمون ده هو اللي بيعمل اليوتراين كونتراكشن لليوتراين وولز عشان تطلع لبره. هو نفس الهرمون اللي خرج البيبي، اللي خرجه من الرحم بتاع امه، هو نفس الهرمون اللي بيعمل ايه؟
اللي بيوفر له الفود بتاعه.
يا سبحان الله
طبعا.
سبحان الله، هو نفس الهرمون اللي بيروح بعد الدليفري افتر دليفري مباشره علشان يقوم مطلع نفس الحكايه during lactation، أثناء الرضاعة، أو during before lactation by suckling of baby of her mother's breast. يعني لما يبدأ البيبي يرضع بيبدأ هو ده المسؤول إن هو يخرج الإيه؟ اللبن مباشرة. فنفس الهرمون سبحان الله، فكأنه ربنا قطع من مكان ووصل من مكان تاني.
طبعا طبعا طبعا، عشان الناس بس ما تفهمش ان الدنيا الناس تجري على رزق، هو رزقك يعني هو بتاعك، هو ده اللي هيجي لك. طبعا طبعا. طبعا التو هرمونز prolactin or oxytocin hormone, oxytocin hormone and the antidiuretic hormone, the two hormones are secreted from the hypothalamus of the brain and pass through the posterior lobe of the pituitary gland to get out through the blood of the in the blood capillaries that surround the pituitary gland. The prolactin stimulate the prolactin, which act as a very important hormones that secreted from the adenohypophysis that responsible for stimulating the mammary glands to secrete milk. But the two hormones of the neurohypophysis, the first is the antidiuretic hormone or the vasopressin. The vasopressin hormone that increase the blood pressure and increase the reabsorption of water from the kidney tubules, so it decrease the amount of urine. الفيديو اللي قدام حضراتكم ده بيقول لحضراتكم ازاي بيحصل ان هو يحصل affect the amount of the urine by the action of the antidiuretic hormone. زي ما قدامنا كده، المفروض ان هنا كل البلاد بلازما بتعمل passing through the glomeruli inside the Bowman capsule, so filtration takes place inside the Bowman capsule and reabsorption takes place inside the tubules of the kidney, of the nephron, the first and the second called the tubules. But increasing the blood pressure means accelerates the passage of the water inside the tubules. That means that increase the reabsorption of water. So the increasing the blood pressure means increasing the reabsorption of water from the kidney tubules and reabsorb it to the blood. So that means that decrease the amount of urine due to the action of the antidiuretic hormone or the vasopressin. So the vasopressin hormone decrease the amount of urine by increasing the blood pressure inside the kidney tubules. But the oxytocin hormone causing rapid contraction of the uterine muscle during delivery. احنا قدامنا هنشوف شكل الاكشن بتاع الاوكسيتوسين هرمون ده اليوتريان muscles, amniotic sac, placenta, pubic symphysis اتكلمنا عنه قبل كده, coccyx or coccygeal part of the vertebral column. So the rapid contraction of the uterine muscle due to the action of the oxytocin hormone that leads to the delivery or pushing the fetus outside the body. So that's the action of the hormone. The second gland, Mr. Yahya, is the thyroid gland. Thyroid gland is called the activity gland. So what about the structure of the thyroid gland?
Thyroid gland, mainly it is composed of two lobes, Mr. Okay?
Yes.
Two lobes, whenever you're talking about this one, its location in the neck,
Yes.
near to the trachea. It is composed of two lobes, like this, like H, something like, you know, like that, okay? And this is number one, is lobe number one. This is number one, lobe, the first
هنعدي
lobe.
الورقة حبة مستر يحيى حسب
Okay.
قدامنا على الشاشة. اتفضل.
Sorry, mister.
اتفضل.
This is lobe, lobe number one, and this is lobe number two, okay? And in between there is something called the isthmus, mister.
Yes.
Okay, isthmus. بنسميه بالعربي البرزخ.
Yes.
اللي هو just to make connection between the two parts. What about its color? It's slightly red, dark red, found in the part of your neck and in front of the trachea. So the trachea over here. It is responsible for secretion of some hormones, which are thyroxine hormone and calcitonin hormone. They are considered as most of the two important hormones for our body metabolism and whatever. Okay, mister?
Yes.
The first one, which is thyroxine. It is responsible for metabolism and responsible for what, mister?
So the two hormones are secreted from the thyroid gland as that appear in the screen is the thyroxine hormone and the calcitonin hormone.
Yes.
So the calcitonin hormone. So the thyroxine hormone is very important hormone. قبل ما هنكمل مع مستر يحيى احنا هنشوف بس شكل التو loops of the thyroid gland. Two red loops are connected together by isthmus. The thyroid gland as an endocrine gland supplied with a huge number of blood capillaries because it secretes hormones in the blood directly. That's the hormones that are secreted from the thyroid gland. The most famous hormones that secreted from the thyroid gland is the thyroxine hormone. What about the functions, Mr. Yahya, of the thyroxine hormone?
Really, mister, it affects the metabolism of the food inside our body. So it maintains different things. It maintains also the skin, and also it maintains the hair, okay? And also it is very important for metabolism of different parts of our body. And also it affects the heartbeats, mister. So whenever there are some disturbances in its secretion, it causes increase or decrease of the heartbeats, mister. So it stimulates physical and mental growth, and it affects the basal metabolic rates. This means that the basal معناها الأساسي، يعني العملية الميتابوليزم الأساسية ل different types of food which are proteins, carbohydrates, and whatever. And also it increases the absorption of carbohydrates from the intestine, especially the glucose, mister.
Yes.
And also it protects the healthy of the skin. It protects the healthy of the skin and hair. Yani it is responsible for keeping our hair, and also keeping
because the deficiency
Yes.
of the thyroxine hormone leads to the falling of the hair during certain cases.
and causes dry of skin, mister.
Of course. that during the myxedema disease we will explain the symptoms of the disease. But now what about the function of the calcitonin hormone?
Calcitonin hormone, really it is responsible for maintaining the concentration of calcium inside the blood. Okay, so whenever the calcium ratio increases in the blood, it decreases the ratio of calcium in the blood. يعني بمعنى أصح إن هو بيظبط نسبة الكالسيوم اللي موجودة في الدم، فبتقللها شوية وبتقلل اللي هو الذوبان بتاع الإيه الكالسيوم from the bones to the blood.
Okay, and also we are going to explain the action of another hormone that antagonizes the action of the calcitonin hormone. The calcitonin hormone that can decrease the calcium level in blood by precipitate the calcium ions on the bones. But the parathormone hormone, which is secreted from the parathyroid glands, antagonize the action of the calcitonin hormone because it increases the calcium level in blood by the releasing of the calcium ions from the bones. طيب مستر يحيى، احنا هنبدا ناخد مجموعه من الاسئله والانسرز كده عليها على الجزء اللي احنا قلناه، نشوف الناس يعني استفادت قد ايه.
Here we go, Mr.
Okay, the first question, choose the correct answer. Deficiency continuous secretion of thyroxine hormone in adult causes dots. Deficiency continuous secretion of thyroxine in adult causes. Number 1, cretinism. Number 2, myxedema. Number C, dwarfism. Number D, ectophthalmic goiter.
It's the right answer, Mr. is cretinism.
In adults.
Myxedema, yes,
of course,
adults.
Of course. The cretinism is a disease that formed as a deficiency in children. But what about the dwarfism? The dwarfism?
Dwarfism means that the secretion of secretion of growth hormone in the childhood is hyposecretion.
Hyposecretion means a deficiency. Okay.
Yes, efficiency of growth hormone during the childhood, Mr.
اوكي، طبعا واحنا بنتكلم عن الجروث هرمون عدى علينا ان احنا نعرف ان في حاجه اسمها في كل الهرمونز الحقيقه في حاجه اسمها هايبر سكريشن وحاجه اسمها هايبو سكريشن. هايبر سكريشن بنقول عليه افيشنسي، هايبو سكريشن بنقول عليه ديفيشنسي. فانا لما يجي مثلا في الثيروكسين هرمون اقول على الانكريز ثيروكسين هرمون ان بلاد اقول عليه هايبر ثيروديزم. لما يحصل ديكريز اقول عليه هايبوثيروديزم. هايبر يعني انكريز، يعني هيبقى more than the normal level of the hormone in the blood. احنا لما نيجي نتكلم عن الثيروكسين هرمون هنعرف ان الثيروكسين هرمون ده ممكن يحصل له deficiency او يحصل له efficiency، يعني ممكن يحصل له هايبر سكريشن او هايبو سكريشن. لما يحصل له هايبر سكريشن احنا هناخد بالنا ده بيحصل فين؟ ده بيحصل في الادلت ولا في تشيلد هود؟ طب لو هو حصل له هايبوسكريشن يعني deficiency of the thyroxine hormone in children، الحقيقه دي بتبقى مساله خطيره جدا. عشان كده الاطفال في خلال اول اسبوع لما يتولد بيتعمل له تيست علشان نشوف هو الثيروكسين هرمون الليفل بتاعه معقول ولا قليل. لو قليل وسبناه ما اخدناش بالنا هيوصل لنا للكريتينيزم، ودي مساله سيئه جدا. هيحصل نوع من الفيزيكال اند مينيتال ريتارديشن، وبعد كده يبقى بيرمننت مينيتال اند فيزيكال ريتارديشن اللي احنا بنقول عليه كريتينيزم. لكن لو احنا ادينا له سبلمنتس او ادينا له هرمون as a injection of the thyroxine hormone للبيبيز دول، هنا هبدا اعلي الهرمون، فمش هتظهر السيمبتومز بتاعه الديفيشنسي او الهايبوسكريشن اوف ثيروكسين هرمون. لكن في الادلت لو حد خلاص عادي كان عنده الثيروكسين هرمون عالي كويس بشكل عادي، هو بيتعامل عادي، عنده نورمال فيزيكال اند مينيتال جروث. لكن لو حصل هايبوسكريشن للادلت ده يحصل له مشكله اسمها سمبل جويتر. لو حصل هايبر سكريشن للديزيز ده هيحصل حاجه اسمها اكتوفثالميك جويتر. دايما الاكتوفثالميك جويتر هايبر ثايروديزم على طول، يعني ثيروكسين هرمون عالي. لكن لو السمبل جويتر ده سيبناه فتره كبيره، يعني عنده هايبو سكريشن اوف ثيروكسين هرمون، ده بيعمل بقى كومبليكيشن للبيشنت ده. لو هو تشيلدرن هيوصل الكريتينيزم، لو هو ادلت هيحصل له ميكسو اوديما اللي الناس بتقول عليه امر 14 او مرض امر 14، تقول عليه الناس اللي بيتجرحوا لوحدهم، بتقول عليه يعني الناس اللي وزنهم بيزيد من غير ما ياكلوا، حاجات كده يعني. وبالتالي هنشوف السيمبتومز بعد شويه بتاع الاكتوثالميك جويتر وبتاع الميكسوديما والكريتينيزم. شوف السؤال اللي بعده طيب، وبعدين هنرجع مره ثانيه للديزيز اوف disturbance in the hormone. The hormones that keep the balance of sodium and potassium ions constant in the body are secreted from the dots. The hormone the hormone that's secreted or that keeps the balance of sodium and potassium ion, that hormone secreted from the cortex of adrenal gland. لو احنا اتكلمنا عن الادرينال جلاند كنا هناخد بالنا، او هيبقى في الحلقه الجايه ان شاء الله هناخد بالنا ان في الدوستيرون هرمون، وده الهرمون اللي بيعمل لي increase excretion او reabsorption of sodium ions and excretion of the potassium ions. السؤال اللي بعد كده بيقول لي the hormone which participate the hormones of the parathyroid gland in the regulation of the blood calcium level is secreted from dots. The hormone participate the hormone of parathyroid gland. هو دايما اخد بالي في السؤال هو بيقول لي ذا هرمون ولا ذا جلاند ولا ذا ديزيز ولا ذا ايه هو عايزه بالظبط. هنا بيقول لي ذا هرمون، يبقى انا عايز هرمون، بس الهرمون ده انتاجونايز ذا اكشن اوف باراثايرويد جلاند هرمون، يبقى ده عايز هرمون بيتعارض او بيشتغل عكس الباراثورمون. يبقى هنا قدامنا بنكرياس، قدامنا ثايرويد جلاند، قدامنا بيتيوتري جلاند. هنا بيقول ذا هرمون، يبقى هنا على طول لو انتاجونايز الباراثايرويد جلاند يبقى انا هتكلم عن الكالسيتونين هرمون. لكن هنا قال لي ايه سكريتد فروم كذا، يبقى هو عايز الهرمون ده سكريتد فروم ايه، يبقى على طول فروم ذا ثايرويد جلاند. طيب نشوف السؤال اللي بعده. The hormone which antagonizes the action of parathyroid gland hormone is dots. هنا عايز الهرمون على طول، مش عايز السكريتد فروم ايه، يبقى على طول مستريحي هنقول عليه دي كالسيتونين هرمون. وطبعا الهرمون ده واضح ان هو بيحصل له سكريشن من الثايرويد جلاند اللي هي التو ريد لوبس اللي باينين قدامنا which are connected together through the isthmus and the gland. شوف هنا في هايبر سكريشن او elongation of the thyroid gland، هنا هيعمل لي حاجه بعد كده هنسميها ectophthalmic goiter that formed as a result او produced as a result of hyper secretion of thyroxine which is called hyperthyroidism. السؤال اللي بعده بيقول لي FSH hormone or follicle stimulating hormone and LH hormone are secreted from dots. The gravium follicle, the corpus luteum, the endometrium, the pituitary gland.
It's pituitary gland, mister.
Of course. The FSH hormone is the hormone that stimulates the ovary to form gravian follicle. So the gravian follicle responsible for the secretion of a certain hormone called estrogen or estradiol hormone. But the LH hormone stimulates the gravian follicle to release the mature ova and change into corpus luteum, which is responsible for the secretion of certain hormone called the progesterone hormone. السؤال اللي عندنا دلوقتي ماتش كويستشن. السؤال ده بيقول لك select from the column B what's used for the column A. column A بيقول لي growth هرمون، نمبر 2 thyroxine هرمون، نمبر 3 ادرينالين هرمون، وبعدين بنبدا في نمبر B نختار له ايه. is rich in iodine، طبعا ايودين على طول مرتبط بالثايروكسين هرمون. نمبر B stimulates the ovary to form gravium follicle، ده دايما طبعا stimulate the ovary عشان يعمل جرافيوم فوليكل، هو اسمه follicle stimulating هرمون اصلا. وبعدين is secreted from the anterior lobe of the pituitary gland. ونمبر D the highly secreted during the extension the excitation. number 1 the growth hormone. طبعا growth hormone is secreted from the anterior lobe of pituitary gland. number 2 thyroxine hormone, it's rich in iodine. number 3 adrenaline hormone, highly secreted during the excitation. The اخر واحده ملهاش طبعا في الكولم A stimulate the ovary to form gravium follicle، كنا قلنا ان ده follicle stimulating هرمون. برضو هنا في سؤال تاني برضو select from the column B what suits for the column A. FSH hormone and the LH hormone stimulates dots. Adrenocorticotropic hormone, thyroid stimulating hormone or thyrotrophin stimulate ايه. وبعدين انا عندي الجلاندس او الاورجنز في كولم بي. لما نشوف الانسر على طول FSH hormone and the LH hormone stimulate the testes and ovaries. Adrenocorticotrophic hormone stimulate the adrenal gland. Thyroid stimulating hormone stimulate the thyroid gland. But the mammary gland is affected by the action of the prolactin and the oxytocin hormone, and also the islets of Langerhans responsible for the secretion of insulin and the glucagon hormone. ده لسه هنتكلم عنهم بعد كده. هنا في سؤال مستر يحيى بيقول لي compare between oxytocin and the prolactin hormones. Compare between oxytocin and the prolactin hormone. What about the point of comparison during the question of comparing between two hormones?
Really, Mr. Concerning to oxytocin and prolactin, they are similar in their function and different in some parts.
Yes.
Okay. Concerning to oxytocin, it is secreted from the hypothalamus. Hypothalamus, it is a part of the brain which is responsible for secretion of some it is considered as one of them one part of the anterior lobe.
Yes.
Or which is called the neurohypophysis. But concerning to the prolactin, it is secreted from the adenohypophysis اللي هو الجزء الغدي اللي هو الفص الأمامي.
Yes.
But concerning to the oxytocin, stimulates the uterine muscles to contract strongly during delivery. يعني هو ده اللي بيساعد في عملية الايه كأنه الولادة. خلاص كده. But concerning to prolactin, stimulates the secretion of milk from mammary glands. يعني هو اللي بيساعد في إفراز الملك من المامري glands اللي هي الغدد الثديية. But concerning to oxytocin stimulates the mammary glands to secrete milk from for lactation. يعني الأكسيتوسين ده يعتبر الدور بتاعه هو مكمل وبيجي بعد البرولاكتين. خلاص. أما بالنسبة للبرولاكتين, it stimulates the secretion of progesterone hormone from the corpus luteum. Corpus luteum, you know that Mr. Corpus luteum, it is produced from the Graafian follicle at the day number 14 in menstrual cycle. Corpus luteum, it is responsible for corpus luteum responsible for production of progesterone. This prolactin is responsible for stimulating the corpus luteum to produce the progesterone.
Of course, corpus luteum is a hormone that formed at the action of luteinizing hormone, which stimulates the Graafian follicle to release the mature ova and change into yellow body called the corpus luteum. Corpus luteum is a very important organ inside the ovary that to keep the fetus inside the uterus. Mr. Yahya, what about the comparison between FSH hormone and LH hormone?
Yes, concerning to FSH hormone, it is the hormone which is produced from the the pituitary gland, and also LSH produced from the pituitary gland.
Yes.
See, so they are called the trophins. The trophins or the hormones responsible for what? For activating other organs or other glands. So in case of females, في حالة الفيمale, stimulates the ovary to produce Graafian follicle, and also stimulates it to produce what? To produce the Graafian follicle and the ovarian follicle. Okay, this is in case of female. But also it is secreted from the pituitary gland. زي ما احنا قلنا بتطلع من البيتويتري gland. خلاص كده. طيب but concerning to the LH, which is luteinizing hormone in female in females, هنتكلم برضو عن هنا عن الفيميلز. في الحالتين احنا بنقارن بين الفيميلز في الحالتين. It is responsible for formation of the Graafian follicle to liberate to ovum. يعني بتخليها تبدأ يحصل ovulation.
Rupture. Yes. To release the mature ova. Yes.
Which occurs during the 14th day of menstrual cycle, which inshallah will be studied in the unit the reproduction inshallah unit. Okay. But concerning to the luteum hormone, but it is secreted from the pituitary gland, where it causes ovulation process. But in case of males. يعني احنا هنتكلم دلوقتي بقى عن حالة الايه الميلز في الحاجتين. FSH ال FSH it is responsible for formation of seminiferous tubules. Seminiferous tubules, you know that Mr. that two testes are formed of thousands of seminiferous tubules. The seminiferous tubules ديت اللي هي تعتبر الأنابيب المنوية اللي بتتكون منها two testes. All of them are formed, the formation of the seminiferous tubules by the FSH, and also it is responsible for formation of the spermatozoa. It is a phase of formation of the sperm. Yes, the spermatogenesis, which is called the spermatogenesis, اللي هو خطوات ومراحل تكوين الايه sperms. And also it is responsible for activation or formation of the prostate gland, Mr. Okay, but concerning to what male for LH hormone, which is luteinizing hormone in case of male, it is responsible for the secretion of for the formation of interstitial cells. The interstitial cells are very important, Mr., because they are responsible for the production of what is called the testosterone hormone, which is very important for the the male puberty features of boy. So whenever you are talking about the LH hormone concerning to male or female, it's very important hormone because it's responsible for appearance of the male and the female sex characters, Mr.
Of course. دايما لما نيجي نعمل كومباريزون بين اي تو هرمونز، انا دايما بعمل كومباريزون بين التو هرمونز دول as a site of secretion and the action of the hormones. لو انا عندي السايت اوف سكريشن واحد، زي لما اجي اتكلم عن اف اس اتش هرمون اند ال اتش هرمون، الاثنين سكريتد فروم ذا ادينو هايبوفيس اوف بيتيوتري جلاند، يبقى انا مش هتكلم بقى هنا عن السايت اوف سكريشن، لكن لما هيبقى في كومباريزون عن الديفرنس بوينت بتوين ذا هرمونز، يبقى انا هتكلم عن الاكشن هنا والاكشن هنا. الاف اس اتش هرمون والال اتش هرمون ليه اكشن عند الفيميل وليه اكشن عند الميل، فهتكلم عن الكومباريزون بتوين ذا اكشن of the FSH hormone in females and also FSH hormone in males. The same will take place in the case of the LH hormone, the action of LH hormone in females and the action of LH hormone in males. طيب خلينا هنا هنسأل سؤال كمان، هيقول لي what would happen in each of the following cases. هنا بيقول لي a deficiency of growth hormone secretion before puberty. هنا بيقول لي لو الجروس هرمون هنا حصل له deficiency، وهنا اخد بالي هو بيقول لي after puberty ولا before puberty. دايما في هرمونز زي الثايروكسين هرمون والجروس هرمون اخد بالي هو بيسالني ده في الادلت ولا children ولا ايه. مستر يحيى بيقول لي what would happen if the deficiency takes place of the growth hormone secretion before puberty.
Concerning to this hormone, it is considered an important one because during the childhood, okay, because during the childhood, whenever it is subjected to hyposecretion, hyposecretion,
yes.
It causes what is called dwarfism. You know dwarfism, Mister? It means that this girl or this boy will be very short. You know smurfs, سنافر كده حاجة صغيرة كده سنفور صغير. It will be very short. So this is called dwarfism. Whenever its secretion is hypersecretion, this means that it will be gigantism. يعني عملاقة. خلاص كده ده during the childhood period.
جميل. الصورة اللي قدامنا الحقيقة الصورة بتقول لنا ان ده طبعا ده صورة اطول راجل في العالم، واللي على سوري على الشوز بتاعه تلاقي في حد قاعد كده، ده اقصر راجل في العالم. فده الفرق بين الهايبر سكريشن اوف جروس هرمون والهايبر سكريشن اوف جروس هرمون. ده الفرق، ده بقى حصل له جيانتيزم والتاني حصل له دوارفيزم. فده الاكشن اوف جروس هرمون ممكن نشوفه في صورة واحدة بس وهتبقى معبرة جدا. السؤال اللي بعد كده بيقابلني برضو what would happen in each of the following cases، وبعدين بيقول لي the secretion of parathyroid glands is increased. The secretion of parathyroid glands is increased. يعني the parathormone increase in blood ايه اللي يجراه؟ الحقيقه في صورتين هنا، صوره للبونز وهي نورمال بونز، وصوره كمان للبريتل بونز. طبعا لما يحصل ان السكريشن بتاع الباراثيرويد جلاند هرمون او الباراثيرمون يحصل له انكريس، معناه انه يحصل انكريز ذا كالسيوم ليفل ان بلاد، معناه ان يحصل بون فراجايل because the large amount of calcium ions are released or extracted from the bones, so they become fragile and leads to its fracture. الحقيقه اصدقائي واعزائي، في نهايه الحلقه انا بشكر طبعا مستر يحيى سالم، احنا شاكرين ليك وسعداء طبعا للمجهود اللي حضرتك بتعمله.
شكرا لحضرتك يا مستر.
ربنا يخليك، وان شاء الله هنلتقي ان شاء الله يوم الثلاث الجاي الساعه 12 باذن الله. شكرا لحضراتكم والى اللقاء.